Okay, guys, and we're back with another episode of the Seth solo side quest. I'm Seth from the Lonely Solo podcast, and this is episode 18 of my side quest. And as usual, in these episodes, we talk about a wide range of topics. Past couple of episodes, it's really been fight news, boxing, MMA, kickboxing, that sort of stuff. And we're going to carry on in the same sort of ilk in this episode. I think the first article we're going to be looking at is an article from, I don't even know where the source is, but it's by Dana White, and he's saying who's the top four most dangerous fighters in the UFC at the moment. And I'm looking at the list, and I kind of agree with some of these names, but there's one name on here that I'm really struggling with. Okay, so the obvious ones: John Jones, Islam Makhachev, and Ilia Topuria. Three names that I don't think anyone can really disagree with in terms of the most dangerous guys in the UFC. John Jones, for obvious reasons, you know, ran the light heavyweight division, current UFC heavyweight champion, has beaten so many legends, huge CV. Islam Makhachev, similar to John Jones, obviously at lightweight though, but running through the division, beaten all the top contenders, beat them in good fashion too. Well, he hasn't beaten all the top contenders, but he's beat Volkanovski twice, one of the featherweight goats. He's beaten, who's the other one he beat? Charles Oliveira he beat. He hasn't actually beat that many top contenders, to be fair, but the lightweight divisions, it's in a tricky spot at the moment because you've got top-ish contenders, guys like, he's beat Arman Sarukian as well, but that was before he was champion. Arman Sarukian's a number one contender, but now that I'm looking at it, Islam's sort of resume and title defense is an interesting sort of mix of, former featherweights, um, former featherweights that are coming up, but Islam's a very dominant champion. Obviously, just beat Renato Moicano, but Islam's a very dominant champion, very talented fighter. Probably this is an interesting one I actually want to talk about. In terms of pure wrestling, Islam might actually be better than Khabib. Now, Khabib's a better grappler, and this is what I mean when I say this. I mean, Khabib would be able to hold guys against the fence, grapple them, and drag them down, and sort of just ragdoll guys for 5 rounds. But in terms of pure middle of the octagon shooting for takedowns, Khabib wasn't actually that good. If you look at his percentages, for someone who's known to be such a demon of a grappler, his shooting for takedowns in open sort of cage area isn't that good. Islam is, I think, a lot better at that in terms of the pure wrestling. Obviously, the MMA grappling, I think Khabib is probably better. And obviously, Islam's a much better striker than Khabib. I think anyone with half a brain cell can see that. And we saw that, on great display in the second Volkanovski fight. That fight from Islam really impressed me in terms of his striking, because we saw a guy set traps. He went to the body early, second round, or whenever he knocked him out, head kick, dropped him, finished him. Masterclass. Now, it wasn't as fancy as an Israel finish or a Powhatan finish or Anderson Silva or John Jones, but it showed good technique, good fundamentals, and the ability to stay patient and wait for the shot and set traps, and when the opening arrives, you take it. So Islam makes complete sense he's on that list. Ilia Topuria, the exact same thing. At featherweight, he's streaking, undefeated, world champion, beat Volkanovski, beat Max Holloway in handy fashion, in devastating wins, knocked out Max Holloway, the only guy to ever knock out Max Holloway, done it in devastating fashion, absolutely spun his jaw. But then that takes us on to the fourth guy on this list. Dana White put Max Holloway as the fourth most dangerous guy in the UFC. Now, Max Holloway is a world-class fighter. World-class fighter, but if you're saying Max Holloway is more dangerous than Tom Aspinall, more dangerous than Powhatan, more dangerous than, I don't even know, even a Charles Oliveira, to take someone who's not even a world champion, to say Max Holloway is more dangerous than all of those guys, I think Dana White, you need to give your head a bit of a wobble, bro, because I don't know what you're talking about with that. Powhatan, a million times more dangerous. Tom Aspinall, a million times more dangerous. But Max Holloway, he doesn't deserve to be on this list, but of course he's a UFC legend, a UFC featherweight GOAT. He's up there with Volkanovski, with Topuria, of course, with Jose Aldo. He's in these conversations at featherweight for sure. And I think we're probably going to see Max Holloway go up to lightweight now that he got his jaw spun by Pereira at featherweight. He's probably going to move back up to lightweight. And I know there's talks about Max Holloway fighting Charles Oliveira at lightweight. We'll see if that fight ever gets made. It's a great fight to get made, if it ever does. Obviously, there's loads of history there, and these guys used to be... they used to fight... I'm sure they fought at 145, I'm sure. I can't remember how that fight went. I'm assuming Max Holloway won that fight, but that's an absolute guess at this point. I've not got that result in front of me at all. So it would be an interesting rematch, but I think the headline here is Max Holloway is nowhere near one of the top 4 most dangerous guys in the UFC, respectfully. Because I've just listed 2 guys, without even really looking at the top of my head, 2 guys that are above him in terms of being more dangerous. 3 guys even. But yeah, interesting list from Dana White, but Max Holloway shouldn't be on that list. And then next, we've now got an article from MMA Junkie where we're looking at Shara Magomedov saying that he had a number of health issues leading... Well, he's blaming his loss on his health issues. But really, Shara Bullet shouldn't be blaming his health issues on the loss. And to be fair, no fighter should. All these fighters do it. But for those who don't know, there's a waiver these guys signed before... I'm not sure. I think it must be before they fight. But it's either the referee or an official or a doctor goes through this form with you and says, have you got any issues? This, and this. All these fighters have to tick no, they don't have these issues for them to be able to fight. So for me, if you're out here ticking off boxes, official medical documentation saying that you've got no issues, you lose the fight and then you're coming out saying issues. I'm not saying Shara Bullet is a liar. I'm not in his body. He would know if he's got issues. And to be fair, I'm sure he probably has got these issues because fighters often fight with issues. They often say if you're going into a fight 100%, you probably haven't trained hard enough. So there is that. But Shara Bullet shouldn't be blaming his loss on his medical issues. He should be blaming it on his lack of IQ. Because Shara Bullet had a clear game plan to win that fight. He's the bigger man, more physical, and decided to not use a single % of it. Now, Shara Bullet probably isn't a good grappler, but he should be. If you're a fighter who's been fighting for this long and you've been training MMA for this long, Shara Bullet he's fairly new to the UFC, but he's tenured in terms of training experience. Unless you literally do not train grappling at all, you should be able to take a guy down and grapple him. You know, Ian Gary done it. And Ian Gary's a very good grappler, a very high-level grappler, but, you know, Shara Bullet is bigger than MVP, and if you're a fighter using even a % of your fight IQ, you look at, I'm probably not going to be able to knock this guy out, not because I'm not powerful enough, this guy's incredibly hard to hit. So my chance of winning this fight is catching him with a knockout or grappling him. MVP very rarely gets hit, let alone knocked out, so my easiest chance to win this fight is to grapple this guy. So what am I going to do? Grapple him. What did Shara Bullet do? Not grapple him. Shara Bullet didn't even shoot for a takedown, didn't even threaten a takedown, and just got... He didn't get dog walked, but he pretty much just... MVP just done what he wanted to him. Shara Bullet really couldn't get anything really going. If we're being honest, he couldn't really get anything going. He couldn't get any momentum going. Couldn't really land any combos. Couldn't pin MVP down for long stretches. Anything to even get him close to winning the fight. MVP won that fight pretty handedly. And Shara Bullet's blaming medical issues. He's saying, by the sounds of it, he's making it sound pretty serious. He said he's never been this sick going into a fight before. So maybe there's some truth behind it. To be fair, I'm sure there is some truth behind it. I'm sure Shara Bullet's not lying, but it's a weird one. Fighters, win or loss, they often have excuses saying, oh yeah, I went through this and this for this training camp and it was so hard. And I hear it. It probably was. But Shara Bullet could have won that fight. Shara Bullet had ways to win that fight and he didn't use his IQ and he didn't do it. And next we've got an article where we've got Caleb Plant saying that he's revealed his 3-fight shortlist of opponents he wants for his next bouts. We've got Balanga here, Jamie Munguia, and Jamal Charlo. Now, Caleb Plant is a fighter I like a lot. I've been a huge fan of Caleb Plant for so long. I really like the way he boxes. He boxes, obviously, take it with a grain of salt. He boxes like me. Obviously, I am nowhere near the fighter Caleb Plant is. I'm nowhere near as talented as him. I'm nowhere near as dedicated to boxing as him. I've never had a pro bout. You know what I mean? So take it with a grain of salt. But in terms of those who know, in terms of the Philly shell style, the shoulder roll, the defense, the counter punching. Sorry, I nearly dropped my shit there. The counter punching. Caleb Plant does fight a lot like me. So imagine Caleb Plant, what is he, 6 foot, 6'1"? Imagine Caleb Plant, but about 50, 60 pounds heavier. Now you're sort of in my sort of ballpark here. But those 3 fights for Caleb Plant are fights that I really like for Caleb Plant. I think Berlanga and Munguia are good opponents for Caleb Plant. I think they're winnable opponents. Munguia's underrated, not undefeated. He lost to Canelo, and Berlanga also lost to Canelo. But Munguia's a young fighter who I think potentially has got a big future in the sport. I think promoted correctly, all 3 of these fights could be big money fights for Caleb Plant, for sure. For sure, because Caleb Plant, he's lost to Canelo and he's lost to David Benavidez again. Both guys who are phenoms at their divisions. I think Caleb Plant fought them both at super middleweight, I'm assuming. Both guys who are phenoms at super middleweight. And again, no shame in losing to those guys at all because they're undefeated world champions, multi-weight world champions, to be fair, both those. Actually, I don't think David Benavidez is only a world champion at super middleweight. He's not won a belt at light heavyweight yet. But a world champion, undefeated world champion nonetheless. But then the Jamal Charlo fight would be a hard fight for him. I'll be honest, it would be a hard fight for him because Jamal Charlo can seriously bang. But that being said, Jamal Charlo's not been in the ring for a while. He's not fought since 2023. Caleb Plant, I don't think, has been tremendously active himself, but you know, these are good fights for Caleb Plant. I wouldn't favour him against Jamal Charlo, but the style that Caleb Plant has, he's got a chance against anyone. You know, and Caleb Plant's got some big wins on his resume, so he's got a chance against anyone. His defensive style sort of allows him to be in the fight for a long time, unless he gets stopped. Which I believe he got stopped against Canelo. I'm not sure if he got stopped against David Benavidez. But if he gets stopped, then obviously you stop him, you win the fight, obviously. But the sort of style he's got where he's defensive first, counter punching. Even if he's losing a fight, he can come back. He's only a couple shots away, a couple combinations away, maybe even a couple rounds away from getting right back into that fight and imposing his will again. So those are 3 fights I really like for for Caleb Plant, particularly in terms of him getting the bag. I would. It's hard. Like I said, they're 3 big money fights, but they're not easy fights for anyone. Those aren't easy fights for Caleb Plant. I could see him winning all 3. I could see him losing all 3. To be fair, a Berlanga and Munguia, I would favour Caleb Plant in that fight, in those fights, to be fair. Just because stylistically, Caleb Plant, he offers too much for those sorts of guys. But Munguia can bang. It's hard. I'm sitting on the fence with those ones. But the Jamal Charlo fight, I wouldn't favour Caleb Plant for. But if he could win, would be a huge win for him. And puts him right back in those world title contention talks again. And maybe he gets another world title shot at super middleweight. Who knows? But yeah, that's been it from me. From Seth Solo Sidequest. It's been episode 18 now. We're banging out these videos. We're going at it. And I'm sure there'll be another episode coming out soon. Stay tuned. I'm out. Peace.